Traditional healers have often been misunderstood, with judgmental people calling their practices backward.
Well, it's a topic that's often been sensationalized. However, how does one heed the call of becoming a traditional healer, and who can become a sangoma? So to help us unpack and answer some of those questions, traditional healer and member of the African National Healers Association, Dr. Zukiswa Mvoko, joins us for this conversation right now. Zukiswa, thank you so much for your time this morning. Perhaps maybe you should actually unpack for us, what is the difference between a traditional healer as well as a sangoma? And then we'll go into the entire process in itself.
Tamagweni, good morning. Makosi, thank you for having me. Well, first, I would like to add that I'm also a spokesperson for the SADC University of African Medicine. To answer your question, I would like to first inform that we are indigenous healers. The word traditional has been used from the colonial system. So it's an indigenous healer or an African healer. So a sangoma is somebody who has been gifted to heal, somebody who has been gifted to heal by his or her ancestors. They've got certain gifts, not one gift. They can have various gifts that have been given to them. And they've went through a process of initiation or a training. Others may not need to be trained by a person physically. Others go through mountains, others go under rivers to be trained or to be initiated by their ancestors who've given them the gift. Then after that, they come and practice. They diagnose, they do consult various different spiritual realms, and then they become sangomas by then giving the diagnosis, and then they then prescribe what herbs or what kind of rituals or ceremonies need to be performed for that particular person. So that is a sangoma.
Doctor, as far as you can, are you able to share with us the process that one would go through in becoming an African healer as you've described?
The process for becoming an African healer or indigenous healer is, I would firstly mention that as much as everyone would like to know the details of how do you become, but it's one of those sacred processes that we don't actually would like to share it in the public because we treat them as sacred processes. But an overview of what happens for one to become a sangoma or to become an indigenous healer, you have to have been called for to become that. You also have to have a gift to become that. That's why we call it a calling. You are called to become that, and then you will go to a certain place where you will be initiated, and that's where when you get to that particular school, you will then have to follow through the processes of ensuring that you evoke your spirits or the guardian angels that have given you the gift that will guide you how to then, do they want you to become a sangoma. The reason that happens is because each and every sangoma is being guided differently by their ancestors during the initiation process. So you will stay there with your gobela or your master or your teacher for the longer period that your ancestors want you to be. Others can stay from 6 months to 8 months to a year or 2 years, depending. And then during that process, you are being taught, not only by the gobela, you are being taught by your ancestors. So the process is whereby the gobela facilitates whatever that your ancestors does want you to do. Then from there, it goes to the graduation stage, whereby now you're being called to graduate, or you do a ceremony for you to graduate, and then now you are being attuned to be a healer or a sangoma or an African healer.
Yeah. Dr. Zukiswa, how does one know that they've got the call, that they've got a gift? Because as you were describing the process that one goes through, there's a lot of, you have to rely on the spiritual side of you, right? So you have to have a clear understanding and evoking of your ancestors, and your ancestors, clearly as what you've described, need to be approving of the process that you're going through. But to take us back a little bit, I have to understand that I've got the call, or I have to know that I have the gift. How can I discern or even get the clarity that I actually have been called? What will happen?
Okay, first of all, I'd like to mention that we all have gifts. The reason I say that we all have talents, it's been classified as a talent, which is a gift. Now, what differs is that what talent is that you've been that is there within you? Is your talent or your gift is it a gift that was passed on from one generation to the other? Is it a gift that when you use it is a gift of you having to heal people? Is it a gift that whereby you can see different herbs, you are able to identify different herbs, you are able to identify different situations in terms of problems and also give solution to it? And where do you get that information? You are able to see or get the information from the higher power, from the ancestors, from the spiritual realm. So in that way, you find that when you have these abilities to be able to connect to, I would say, when we call them dead people, we call them the people that are from the other world. Are you able to connect to them? Are you able to hear the voices? Are you able to have a conversation with those people? Then you will understand that your gift is different from the next person, because most people are gifted, but not only to be able to go through the initiation, but they're gifted for themselves to just to be able to be those people who can connect with their ancestors and be messengers within the family. Others are also gifted to be able to counsel people, but using the spirituality wisdom. So one would have to also be able to identify what kind of a calling do I have, or what kind of a gift do I have? Can I be able to connect and be able to speak to people and say, I can be able to hear your ancestor or identify your ancestors coming through, and your ancestors are saying this, or my ancestors are giving me this message and that message. So that is very key, because most of the time we get to hear from gobelas or from the next person telling us what the ancestors are saying. What is important is that one needs to be able to activate that relationship with their own ancestors, so that their ancestors can tell them if that gift they have is the gift of doing what purpose. Because you having a gift, generally speaking, may not necessarily mean that you have to go through the process of twasa. So how will I then know? You will know based on the things that I've just mentioned, because if you do have, you can have visions of dreaming an animal, you're dreaming water and all that. Yes, everyone has to dream that. We are in the universe. You know, we are in a universe that has elements, and we are surrounded by water, we're surrounded by animals. So it doesn't necessarily mean that now because I'm dreaming of these animals every day of my life, then it means I have to twasa. But now that's where the importance of one has to understand that when they're dreaming of these things, then they're becoming very excessive to them. They have to then consult and go to a traditional healer. But then to go to an indigenous healer. But even then, before going there, one needs to, I would say, you pasha, you pray, or you connect with the source and tell them that I am going out to find out more about the gift that you have given me. I don't have much information, but please guide me where can I go? Then the person will be able then to take that step and then be guided to go where they need to go. But when they get there, it's a matter of a conversation with the gobela or with the ancestors to find out exactly what type of a gift do they have and how do they then activate that gift. As I mentioned, others can twasa not to heal people, but to align and correct certain things that have happened within the family. Others may twasa to be a healer within the family. So one needs to actually understand, why did I twasa? Because there's so many things that have happened in the history of our Africans. So many misalignments have happened within our history. So now, as we're seeing a lot of people coming to the awakening of ukuba abantu abathwasile okanye to be healers or sangomas, is because of the urge that has been there for many, many years.
Yeah, Doc, I just want to come in there, because that's a very interesting point point that you bring up, in that there are many more people that are getting enlightened and coming forward here. Because Faith and I were having a discussion around those who may necessarily not have any kind of calling and fake, you know, the process. So based on what you are telling us now, is there such a thing as faking the process? Is this trend that has come about where everybody is getting this awakening a genuine thing within society?
Well, the word fake, I would say, it can be misused, or it can be used in the sense, as I mentioned, that you can have a gift, but it's not a gift of healing people as an indigenous healer. Do you understand? It's not a gift of you to consult with your with ancestors and prescribe and do those consultations. As I mentioned, that maybe you can find that you do have a gift, but as a poet, and for you to be a poet, it means you have to connect with the ancestor who was a poet before. Then you connect spiritually, but it doesn't mean that you have to go through the process of Uthwasa. You may be a musician. You need to go through a process of Uthwasa, but not because you have to heal people. Sometimes you can be Uthwasa, but not for you to heal anybody. At the same time, you may be a musician, but you don't need to Uthwasa. That is the gift that you've been given. You also can have a gift of being a good cook. You are a good cooker. You can have a gift of being able to communicate with people like a counselor, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go and Twasa. Now, what has happened is that there's also the flip side coin, whereby due to, I would put it out loud there, due to poverty, there has been a high rate of most of us sangomas, or say the gobelas, who now every time when somebody comes, they've got a certain gift, and then we rush them into saying, you have to Twasa, because now other people are now making it as a business. That I know that if I've got so many matwasa, then I get so much X money. You know, so that is the flip side of a coin, which is not really nice to taste, but it's a reality that is there. So now most of the time you find that people go to sangomas, and with the little gift, or not little per se, but with the gift that they have, they are now being told that they need to Twasa. You know, so another thing is that, as I mentioned, that some people do have to go through the process of initiation, the whole full process. Then they are able to that when they come out, they're healing people. You will notice that with the high rate of people that are now doing the twasering, some of them after that, they are just sitting at home. They're not doing anything. They're not even consulting people. They're not helping people. They're not healing people. And another thing is that other people have been gifted to be amagedla, herbalists. They are not supposed to go, some of them, they're not even supposed to go through Uktwasa, because their gift is to know about herbs. And their ancestors connect to them, they come to them and tell them what herbs to use. And inyanga nazo futhi, they don't go to Twasa, like inyanga namakrele is a similar thing. Those people, you find that most of the time, they get to know about the herbs from their ancestors, and then they get to heal people through that. So now with the high rate of people now deciding that they feel that now it's become fashionable, it's not something that we can treat as a fashionable statement, because it's very detrimental to one's spirituality. Because even if you were to fake it, you can fake it and become that so-called sangoma, or I would say an indigenous healer, but you're not aware of the implications that you're portraying yourself to in the spiritual realm, because now you'll be faking it, and now when things happen in the spiritual realm, you're not able to withstand what happens in the spiritual realm, because most of us as indigenous healers, we are the ones that stand in the forefront of whatever is spiritual fights that may be there. Now, if you are not called to be able to stand there, you won't be able to stand the fire. And most of the time, you'll even notice that your life will go wayward, and you'll always be blaming then you come back and blame Gobela Wak and say, my Gobela did not do things well for me, my Gobela did not do things right for me, Gobela, and so forth. So it's very key that people don't take this calling as a play game. It's a calling that needs to be taken very serious, because it's a calling about our historical, our history, our heritage, our identity. Because now when we're going to fake this, it means we are losing our identity as Africans. We are losing our identity as Black people. We are losing direction. We are losing our customs. We are losing our cultures. Now, when we're going to deal with this issue of let's just, I feel like I want to be a sangoma, then because I want more money or whatsoever, it doesn't work like that. People need to stop doing that, and they need to stop taking this the healing life.
Yeah.
And yes, making fashion and also taking it light. It's
Dr.
very key.
Zukiswa, just to interject there, because you're mentioning very key nuggets around culture and being and understanding that this is our inheritance, as it were. Is the calling and the process of ukutwasa, the process of becoming an indigenous healer, limited to a race? I've seen, and I know many of us have seen, different indigenous healers of different skin colors, right? White, black, and the like. And it always raises the question of, is it limited to Black Africans?
Yeah.
Or is it not limited to race? Because one would say we all have ancestors and we all have a
Gifts,
background,
as she
and
said.
we all have gifts, as you were putting it.
A calling is not limited to race. Reason I'm saying that, for example, you hear people calling, saying that there is your Chinese, they call Chinese traditional healers. They have Indian shamans. They have, and then from the West, they've got your psychics, your clairvoyancers, your mediums. So that shows that there's no color in terms, or limitation in terms of color when it comes to a calling. Because even with us, the limitation that I would say we'd have had is based on the way that we have been categorized to only to be able to heal. Reason I'm saying that, we're only being classified to be sangomas, inyanga, iklele, sanusi, and also inglebi, and many others. But we are not being opened up to understand that within our space of as African healers, we've got palm readers, we've got clairvoyancers, we've got mediums, we've got psychics. Those people, we do have them. We've got people that can do Reiki and crystals. As you can see, I'm wearing a crystal. It doesn't mean I'm believing in the Western culture, because I understand that crystals are also part of the African healing. I also do Reiki. Reiki healing is part of us being able to heal with our own hands and using the energy. So the limitation has been more on us as Black Africans to be able to expand and share the healing aspects that we have. So there's no limitation in terms of race, in terms of when it regards to a calling or a gift.
Yeah. Here's something that's difficult to reconcile, Doc. Some of us in our families are always taught that you can't mix religion and being in touch with your ancestors. Why does that notion exist? And why is it not conceivable that I can't be religious and I can still be connected with my ancestors in the form of embracing my gift in whichever way it may come?
We need to first understand that religion came with the colonial system. Religion is a system. African spirituality has a system of its own. African spirituality is about connecting and also about aligning the lifestyle of Africans. It's the same thing that when you say religion, when now we're looking at Orthodox religion, you look at the other religions, your Muslims, and you call them the different different religions. It's a system that was meant to cut us out, or a system that was made to make sure that we not believe in who we are. So when they say don't mix religion with ancestors, that is now, I will also gonna take it from the flip side to say, if one was to tell you that don't mix with the ancestors, then that means that person says to you, you need to believe that your father who had passed on is now a demon for you to believe that I can believe in them or connect to them. And again, when they say don't mix religion with the ancestors, then I'll take it back to the Bible. The Bible, most of the people in the Bible are dead people. What do we call them? They are ancestors. So why do then, what does the come and say we shouldn't believe and they shouldn't believe in the ancestors? So another thing that I want to add is that we need to understand that African spirituality is not an additional thing. It's our lifestyle. It is who we are. It's what defines us. Because another thing that happens nowadays is that we are in an identity crisis. We want to belong somewhere. We want to be identified with something that means, that talks to us as Africans. That to say, if I would say I am an African or I am a Black person, wherever I am in the world, what defines me? How do I connect to be that person? To understand. So with all these things that have been happening of the need of the identity crisis, we're then now looking to try to compensate or try to understand other cultures that we're not aware of or that we don't know of. We first need to understand that African spirituality is seen to say to is who we are, is what identifies us. Look at the other cultures, like your Muslims. They live their culture. They are living their way of culture. They are not treating as Muslim as the cultures and the things as a separate issue.
Right.
It's their daily living. So we need to start looking into that, as to say, as Abantu besintu, how do we live? How were we supposed to live before, and how can we take over that for the next generation? And it also goes back to the calendar that we're using. The calendar that we're using is not our own calendar. Look at the Indians. The Indians, they use their own calendar that aligns with their rituals and with their lives, with their spirituality. Look at the Jewish. The Jewish people are also doing the same. But we, as the Black Africans, we're not using our calendar that aligns with us, that aligns with our rituals, that aligns with our identity.
Sure. Dr. Zukiswa, we don't have much time left, but I'm hoping you can package this in within a minute for us. But what happens if an individual ignores the call?
Important question.
Are there repercussions to that?
Well, first of all, after the person has understood what calling do they have, and if that calling means that they have to go through the process of being an indigenous healer. So them ignoring it, it comes with the sense of saying that I am not ready to give up my life, this current life, and be somebody that my ancestors want me to. I'm not ready to be a vessel. Now, the implications, they differ from one person to the other. It's not cast in stone. So it depends if your ancestors, they feel that at that time, then others find that they get sick. Their ears won't hear, they become half paralyzed. Others have issues that they get diagnosis that they cannot understand. So it's not a punishment per se. What I need people to understand, that if I don't take a calling, my ancestors are going to punish me, they're going to make me sick, they're going to make me that. It's not necessarily that, but it's when your ancestors, they feel that you don't want to take the calling, they'll step back. They'll step away. The protection will be gone, will be far from you. Now, when that happens, you get all the attacks. You start being sick. You start feeling out of spec or out of place. And because of that, then we say, oh, the ancestors are angry. Vele, you find that your ancestors are angry, or they're not happy that you did not take the calling.
Got you.
There's so many questions I still have, Dr. Zukiswa Mvoko, but we've run out of time, unfortunately. It's such an important conversation. And for me, it's quite enlightening, because I think generally the younger generation has very little understanding of our ancestral origins and the fact that we all have gifts, you know. They don't necessarily have to follow the trends that we've been seeing going out and about, you know.